Welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for coming to visit with me. I know that it has been a little while since you last saw me, but I am here and I'm not here alone. I have a guest on the podcast today, Craig Carlisle. Hello, how are you?
Outstanding. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. I want to thank you first for coming on to A Minute with Mom podcast. Now, we're not strangers to this. We have been doing this for quite some time, you and I, like a few years.
Yeah, now we may be strange. At least I know I am. We not strangers.
We're definitely strange, but we're not strangers. So we have a little bit of history. We've been knowing each other for 7 years now?
At least, yeah.
At the very least. And you're the one why I'm here. Let me just say that. Yeah, it's your fault because you're the one that invited me onto your podcast. And then I got bit by the podcasting bug.
And I forgot about that.
Yeah, remember? So before we jump into today's episode, I really want you to kind of just share with my viewers who you are, what you do, because you have a couple of podcasts of your own. You have a t-shirt line. You are doing some things. You have done a lot of things. So would you share with our viewers who you are and what you do?
Oh, I appreciate it, Tamara, and it's always wonderful to be, anywhere that you're talking about something, we're laughing, talking, eating food, eating cake, whatever it is. And I noticed I said food and cake is different because they're two different food groups. There's food and then there's the desserts that y'all be making.
Yes, God, on today.
Yeah, I always have trouble speaking about myself because I don't really think about the things that I do. I don't want to say they're not noteworthy. I just try to do them and do what I'm supposed to do. And so, over my right shoulder is the latest clothing shirt line release from Carlisle Prints. Where's the Faith? And that's what we do with Carlisle Prints is we actually try to do a lot of apparel printing. We do any promotional item, things like that. We've co-produced a film in 2015. We're writing a new script for new production that we're trying to get into for 2025. Tamara, we've got the other two shows, RZNGMen show and Knight and Craig show with my cousin, Dr. Michelle Knight. And that's about it. I'm a father of 5 boys, and it makes me tired just talking about it.
I'm tired listening to it because I've seen you in action. And I know that you won't give yourself the credit that you're due, but I'm gonna give you your flowers right now. Outstanding father, businessman, friend. Like, you wear so many different hats. I have seen you on your best days, and I have seen you on crappy days, and we have had some crappy days together where the two of us are just lamenting because we friends like that. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so stinking proud of you for not giving up, for always moving forward. And the thing that I love most about you, Craig, is even when I'm having the worst day ever, you're always giving me a brighter side. And you seem to always find the bright side no matter what you're facing. And so the only reason that I know that you can do these things is because you walk so closely with the Lord. And even in your most fleshy moments, it always goes back to, but what does God say? But what does God want for my life? And you follow that as best to your ability. But you also are very good at admitting when I don't got it.
Yeah, that's all I have. Yeah, and that's all I know because it keeps me out of trouble. It keeps me, and I appreciate it. What you're saying, your words, it's just, I've lived that way for so long. It keeps me out of arrogance. It keeps me out of pride, and it keeps me going when I don't have it. When I don't even want to go.
Yes.
That mindset, and I think not necessarily turning into the show topic, but I remember you asked me during our what we call our prep time, our strategy session. You asked me, so Craig, how did you even get that mindset? How did you just decide to do what you do and to give up ministry and working with people, and I said, "Well, I don't." I think the answer I gave was incomplete. I was coming out of the shower, getting ready for this morning, and
Yeah.
it hit. The answer was, it's like you
Mhm.
weren't authentic. You didn't tell the true story because it took me getting tired and angry at being tired, and I was like
Yeah.
the old, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired," and that's what it was. I really
Yeah.
became tired of being disappointed by people, became sick and tired
Mm.
of not being the me that I've always wanted me to be, and
Yeah.
so to the point where I was just flat out fed up. I
Yeah.
started the changes and doing the getting on the path to where I am right now. I'm not there yet,
Right.
but I'm working on it. But that was the
But
motivation, man.
you're turning the ship
Yeah, yeah.
into the direction that you want it to go in. And I think that's very poignant for today's topic, which we're talking about making peace with your parents. And what I mean by that is, what do you do in life when you're an adult, but you're still kind of grappling with your present state of relationship with your parents, meaning that it's not the best?
Yeah.
Maybe there's some tension there. Maybe there's some resentment there. You're navigating being an adult, but still being a child, and having some very uncomfortable conversations with your parent at the present moment. Or maybe you have great parents and your relationship is great, but something is changing in the dynamic of your relationship with your parents. And how do you navigate that? I know for me personally, my relationship with my parents was not what I wanted it to be. So there was the fantasy that I had, and then there was the reality of what I actually had. And so that's kind of what we're unpacking in today's episode and our conversation. So leading into that topic, I talked about the reality versus the fantasy. So we'll call this part of the show a reality check. So Craig, tell me, what was your fantasy, parental fantasy growing up, or what did you wish your parents would have been for you or given you that you did not get?
Well, it's funny. I used to always tell people that, man, if I could be half the parent that my dad was, then I'd be a great man because I thought the world of my dad. I thought he was larger than life. I thought he was a gazillion feet tall. I thought he had all the answers. I thought he could, run so fast, was so strong. I thought he could do anything but fail. And as a child, I think it's we all want to believe our parents are that way, flawless in
Yeah,
every detail. Quoted
yeah,
every scripture, prophesied every natural disaster and every great happening, and he was that guy. But then we begin to peel back the onion and see them as who they are, and the reality of adulthood and parenting and persona shows up when we become parents and start to go, wait a minute, that memory wasn't quite as
right.
flawless as I
That did not
recall. I
go
remember,
down how I, yes,
yeah, the parts on the sadness start coming through because I think my mind was like, oh no, he could do no wrong, so I'm gonna cover up all the bad with my
mm,
romanticism of the good, and
okay,
that really started to peel back when my dad was older, and he was
hmm,
dealing with dementia and just some other health concerns before he passed, and I was
hmm,
so desperately seeking answers to the questions from him that I never got. I wanted words for wisdom from him before he passed. I was so on a mission for that. But
yeah,
I unfortunately learned during that search that I'm not going to get anything from anyone else that I'm not able to find inside of me. So I had
mm,
to stop looking for it in him because I was
right,
disappointed at every single turn. Now, great, some of it was his dementia, and
yes,
some of it was who he was.
yeah,
And the sad part for me, or saddest part for me, I could never tell the difference because I could
oh,
never tell where the dementia stopped and my
right,
dad began.
yeah,
And
oh,
so
that's
we didn't have that relationship where I could go back and say, "Hey, remember that day when I was 5 And you told me, well, no, sorry, like 7 or 8, 9, and you told me that I wasn't going to be able to take piano lessons anymore because you didn't think I practiced enough. You need
Mm-hmm.
to know that you were wrong, because you wouldn't believe me
Right.
when I was that age. But now I'm whatever age I was when he passed,
Mm-hmm.
49, almost 50, and I let you know this was the truth. So those are part of life, those get backs that I never
Yeah.
got back. And
Yes.
those were hard for me.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time determining what I didn't get as a kid, what I
Mm-hmm.
lacked, what I didn't receive from them. And I
Mm-hmm.
went on to take the positives from a lot of different men and women from how I wanted to be. And that's
Yes.
where I began to put all that into who I am and
Right.
are becoming.
Right. And that's so interesting that you say that, because for all people, our parents are kind of our blueprint for
Yeah.
living, for life, for how we do life, for how we show up in the world as children and later on as adults. And so when you realize that there's been a deficit somewhere in
Yeah.
your parents' ability to give you what you need, it's
Yeah.
kind of leaves you like, okay, now what? So I love the fact that you took, it's almost like you said, you know what? I'm going to take now ownership
Mhm.
of the deficit, and I'm going to fill the gap as best as I can by, whether it was mentorship and whether those people knew that they were mentoring you. Because I
Yeah.
think in the line of what we do, we get on our podcast, we record a show,
Right.
and then we're on to the next one. But we have no idea who's on the receiving end a lot of times of the things that we're saying, who's watching, and how we could be mentoring
Yeah.
someone's life just from them clicking on a video. And that's really why I love what we do, and why I do what I do, is because that's how it started. That's how A Minute with Mom started for me, is that I realized a deficit in my life, in that the fantasy mom that I hoped that I would have, or that I dreamed about having, or that maybe one day she'll wake up and realize to do this for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of it is TV has a
Yeah.
let me just say this. For Gen Xers, who were latchkey kids, um, the TV raised us. Okay,
Oh yeah.
I'm not even. I'm just put it out there. It's no shade to our parents. I
Mm.
know now. Now that I'm a parent, my mom was a single mom, and so once my grandparents moved back to Jamaica, there was no adult supervision in the house with me
Mhm.
and my sibling. And so we have to, I wore the key around my neck.
Mhm.
I had my routine of, you come home from school, first thing you do, put your book bag down and call mommy on the phone and let her know I'm home safely.
Yep.
We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have GPS. You
Mhm.
better know how to get to school and get to home. If we had to ride a bus, you better know which number bus takes you to the stop that you need to get off. You better
Mhm.
pay attention while you're on said bus. Don't fall asleep. Don't mess around and fall asleep. You're gonna miss your stop. So once we're home, now what do? The first, after you hang up the phone with mommy, I want to eat. I need a snack.
Mhm.
I want to watch my cartoons, Thundercats. Like, totally dating myself. But I want to watch, Fat Albert, Thundercats, whatever, Facts of Life, Cosby Show, and you see all of these different families on TV.
Perfect families.
I can just remember sitting there going, "Oh gosh, I wish my mom was like that," or "My mom's a little bit like that, but I wish she had this." And
Yeah.
for me, my fantasy mom, like if I could build the perfect mom, she would have been a combination of Caroline Ingalls off a Little House in the Prairie and Claire Huxtable. Those were my two main mamas, where I was like, if my mama could just be a little bit close
Right.
to those two women. And I wanted the softness of Caroline Ingalls
Right.
and the um, suave of Claire Huxtable, in that Claire was firm when she needed to be firm and soft when she needed to be soft, but both of those mothers were approachable. My
Right.
mother was not. I didn't feel like my mom was the most approachable mom. So I was afraid of her. Later on in life now, I'm an adult and I'm finding myself having to navigate a very tumultuous, tense relationship with my mom because, in some respects, I still feel like a child.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
she's still treating me like said child because her catchphrase was, I am MOTHER, period.
Hmm.
So when you approach your children with that type of energy, there's almost like that instant relationship of fall back. You're never going to be on the same level as me, which is not necessarily wrong because she is mother. However, when your children cross that great divide from
Yeah.
childhood to parenthood, you have to kind of shift with them. And while you are MOTHER, period, or father, period, you can't be telling them what to do like that because now I'm grown. And so, the reality is that we don't always get the parent that we thought we should have gotten.
Yeah.
We don't always get the parent that we think we deserve. We
Yeah.
don't get the perfect parent. You get what you get, just like parents don't have perfect children. The same
Yeah.
is true. Our kids are not perfect. I know my name. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for yours. I know my children are not perfect. Okay. Not by the stretch of the imagination. And people will see us and think that, oh my gosh, they're so great.
Well, see, here's the thing. My kids, they're not perfect at all by any stretch because their mama wasn't perfect. If they was my kids, they'd all be perfect. I'd be, because I'm all the way. Yeah, right. And we know that ain't true. You know what's funny?
And
You
this
knew
is and so guys, this is the other version of my dear friend who is always cracking a joke. It's like always there's a joke, always ready to be launched. And his timing is exquisite in said jokes. I'm not messing with you today.
what's funny when you were talking though, it reminded me that we talk about mother period, father period, and the ultimate
Yes,
bottom line is we need to shift. Period.
shift, period. How
We
about
can't
that?
stay in that because
No.
my mom. Do you remember that show Fame with Debbie Allen?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Felicia Rashad's sister. I don't remember her
My
name.
all-time favorite.
Okay, so I don't remember her character's name when she used to be popping that dance
Yes,
baton stick,
yes.
and when she talk about if you want fame, fame costs, and right here is when you
Yes,
start
paying.
paying
Yes,
in sweat.
yes,
My mom
yes,
was a combination of that character and Claire Huxtable. My mom was,
mm,
bop around with all the suave and the elegance of
yes,
a Claire Huxtable, but with all of
yes,
the what the hell you need to get this done of the lady from the Fame thing popping that stick on the
yes,
floor. Then you need to be
yes,
dumping them, hoops and twirling around, whatever it was you need to
right.
jump and hoop, twirl around for. You need to get that done.
Mhm.
And I wish she had a lot less. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. I wish that in my life I probably needed a lot more of that. Because you remember that character in the show in that same movie, Fame, Leroy, how she was
Yes,
always on Leroy because he had so
yes,
much talent, and she
yeah,
had to really almost use that stick to almost beat it out of him because of
yes.
his
You have an
upbringing, his
attitude,
background. He did,
right?
but
Yes,
it was a shield because a lot of us can use
right.
our personas as a shield because it's really
Yes,
our hurt is what we're projecting and putting up because
right.
that's all we sometimes feel that we have left because the people who hurt us have taken everything
Right.
else from us and left us with the
Right.
hurt. So all we
Yeah.
can do is make a shield out of it because it's the only way we know to extend it out of our chest is to put it back on you. And
Right.
so I just find that after my mom passed, there wasn't that driver left. And I didn't realize that till sitting and talking with you right now because I'm thinking there's got to
Mhm.
be a place where the lack of push came from. Because even
Yeah.
when I went to college to get my electrical engineering degree, granted, it wasn't what I later found out I should have been doing. When I say later, I'm talking about 6 months in or less. Because I started
Mm-hmm.
doing graphics 6 months in to college.
Mm.
But she was the one that kept saying, "Oh, my son's going to be an engineer. He's going to be an engineer." Da, 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 da. So she drove that change to be what she wanted.
Right.
I never adopted that drive into my life for what I wanted until this side of my life. And I'm still
Mm-hmm.
working on that. And it's
Yeah.
really wild. And I'm trying my best not to push that on my kids and not be my parents.
Right.
I have to be
Yeah.
their parents, my kids'
I mean,
parents.
isn't that the goal? I mean, I've heard that statement my entire life.
Yeah.
We've seen jokes about it. Oh my gosh, I'm turning into my mom. We see memes about how we're turning into our parents and oh, where did that come from?
Yeah.
The thing about it is that it's in our DNA. First of all, let's start
Sure.
there.
Mhm.
So you cannot live under any misnomer that there's not a percentage that you're going to take something from your parents,
Yep. Even if you never met them.
even if you never met them. So for people who have been adopted and they're wondering why their quirks, their proclivities, their natural bend towards things, you're going to say, where did that come from? You're going to wonder, why do I do this? Or why do I cock my head to the side like this? Or why do my mom, one of her things is the way she used to sit is she used to kind of sit like, and that was the seat of judgment. If I came home and my mom was like this, I knew I was about to get all the business.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, when my children are in trouble,
Is that what you
and
go
I
to?
call them into the room.
Oh no, you didn't come with the RBF.
Oh, listen, my
Oh,
third daughter was born with RBF. It
oh
is a
no.
permanent fixture upon her face. I have pictures from birth all the way to current. And we clown her for it all the time. She gets annoyed with it because she's like,
Wow.
it's my face. It's literally my face. And I
Yeah.
have to tell her all the time. There's a meme going on that says that one friend that you have to fix your face, fix your face. That's my
Yeah.
third daughter, Kayla. We're constantly telling her, fix your face. Crazy enough, growing up, I was that person. They would be like, Tamara, fix your face, Tamara. Because you know me, Craig, we've been in social situations together. She can't hide nothing. You're going to see, you're going to be able to read my whole mind, my diary, and my 401k. It's going to be on my face. I do not have good poker face. If I see it and it stinks,
You're going to show. People are start going, do you smell it through the TV?
she's so mad. What is her problem? What is her, and a lot of times people will be like, T, what you thinking? Or Tamara, fix your face. Or girl, I saw your face. I know you didn't like that. It's just the way that I am. I got that from my mom.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I don't love it. I wish that I could break myself of that. But that's what I'm talking about. It's in my DNA. I don't know how else to be. And to try to be something other than that feels unnatural to me. So there are going to be some things that we inherit from our parents that we don't necessarily love. And the only thing that we can try to do is kind of curtail it and manage it. But there are also some things that are learned behavior that we have to make that concerted effort to say, I'm not going to do what my parents did, because you know better than anybody else how it landed on you, the result end of that. And so we're kind of moving into like the disappointments and overcoming the disappointments of the way that you received your parents and where they kind of fell short a little bit. Can you talk about how you navigated those disappointments, how you purpose to not do the same thing? Because we're talking about breaking dysfunctional generational cycles in those disappointments.
Yeah, it just came out of that tired of being tired. My mom and I, we butted heads. I don't want to say we butted heads a lot because as a little kid, I was the youngest one. So I got everything I wanted. And I think that's where my confidence was building. And I think when I was seven-ish, between 7 and 9, when I lost the ability to play piano because I was told that I was lying, that I wasn't practicing. And
Okay.
then that became an issue. So I was like, well, dad's not going to believe me. And mom didn't take up for me. So now what? Then my brother was drafted in high school to play for the Cincinnati Reds baseball team in their minor league
Wow.
franchise. But my dad wouldn't let him sign the contract. And I was like, okay, so if dad's not going to let my brother go play baseball, and I was playing baseball in community league, and they said I was better than him at the same age, that I had no chance of playing pro. So I was like, well, how do I get dad's attention now? He doesn't believe I play piano. He doesn't go watch the games as much because he was out to sea a lot as a Navy guy. But I just began to decide, what do I need to do either to get his attention that I've just stopped because I was disappointed there.
Yeah.
And then my mom, when I became 18, I'm that guy who's like, I'm an adult. I can do whatever I want to do. And she never wanted to let go. She was, like you said, the mother, period. And I watched, and me being 10 and 11 years younger than my siblings, I've watched them battle with my siblings as adults. And you talk to your siblings and like, oh my God, mom acting crazy. She's not going to say anything she wants. She's wilding. And my mom, and I'm being at home I didn't have no place to go because I was still under 18 during those times. I would hear my mom always say, I am your mom and I have earned the right to say anything to you at any time. And so I've taken these little bits across my life. And the pivotal part for me was when I had my own place, and I had showed up at one of their church events at Magic Mountain, just to kind of go back to the old country, back to the old area. Again, I had my own place, and I drove to Magic Mountain to hang out with the fam. And I showed up late to the meetup, to the return back to the bus. And there were some of the kids from the youth group with me, but they weren't with me. I kept telling them, look, you need to go. And I'm trying to herd them along. I wasn't a chaperone. I was just along for the day to have fun. Park was closing. They're supposed to be back. They started to hang. And I was like, you're going to get busted. You're going to be the one busted, not me. And my mom at that time, she had the nerve to try to pinch and turn my shoulder. Like she's mad at me. I told you to be back here at a certain time.
What?
I looked at her. I was like, what in the hell are you doing?
I'm grown, Mom. I'm grown.
I am a whole man. I'm not on your trip. I didn't even get here when you did. And I'm not leaving when you do.
Right.
I said, I'm trying to get your own kids back because they were trying to hang. I found them along the way. They weren't even hanging out with me.
Right.
And from that point on, she and I continued to butt because to her, I embarrassed her in front of these kids. And so my mom used to always say to people, look, if you want to try to egg me, I'm going to show you how to egg someone.
Right.
Ignore. She's from Alabama and Cincinnati area. So I was like, well, then she and I had this contest and to see who could ignore each other the most. And so I began to take those shots at her because she took those shots at me. And I never gave her the mother period honor. I respected her.
Right. And that's what I was going to lead into because, the Bible says, honor your mother and father and your days will be long, right? And you hear that growing up as a child, it was like that one, aha,
Yeah.
honor your mother, honor your father. Like, and I come from a Caribbean family. So let me just very, 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 very big on the whole honor, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing that I'm learning about honor. Yes, honor your mother and your father, because that is what the word of God says to do.
Yes.
And that's what pleases the Lord. However, you're also forgetting not to provoke your children to wrath.
That part.
So if you want the honor, don't provoke.
Right.
And what do I mean by provoking your children to wrath? Just in your example, here you are, a whole grown man. She has done her job. She has done her due diligence. She has trained you up in the way in which you should go, and you did not depart from it, right? And
Right.
now here you are, and she's still trying to pinch the ear, pinch the shoulder, pinch the body of, don't you embarrass me out here in these streets, as if you are still 10 years old, but you're not. And so just like we talked about earlier with that ability to shift, you have to be able to shift, or on your show where we talked about pivoting, you have to do that. Pivot is pivotal. Okay, I'm not trying to be corny, but it's pivotal, because here's the thing: when you continuously provoke your grown children to wrath, or you raise your child up in a provoking environment, the end result is they're not going to want to be a part of your life. They're not going to want you in their life.
They're going to push you around, but they're not going to
Yes.
push you around. If that makes sense.
Exactly.
They're going to force you to do what they want you to do. But when you need them to really push your wheelchair around because your insurance that you didn't keep covered didn't allow you to get the electric one, or whatever, your hands is too gnarled up to box with God, and you can't even box with a little knob because you can't do it, you're going to need somebody to push you around and to watch your body.
Right. And, and for me, that was the case.
Yeah.
For me and my mom, is that once I became of age, I left the house because I wanted to get out from under her thumb. Did it mean that I didn't love my mom? Let me be clear on this. I loved my mother.
Sure.
I loved her so much. And I remember in our reckoning, both of my parents have passed, but God is so good and merciful, because he gave me the gift of reconciling my disappointments with both of my parents before they passed. And so in my last conversation with my mom, one of the last ones that I had with her, we kind of had this moment, this very intense moment, where I kind of just emotionally threw up all of the disappointment, the hurt that I was carrying. And, we've had those moments before, but I felt like she couldn't hear me. For whatever reason, she wasn't hearing me. She was not receiving what I was saying, because I think for my mom, she wanted to be right. At the end of the conversation, she wanted to be right, because to her, it kept her standing. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Her as the MOTHER period, and I have the final say so, and I have the last word, and it is what it is. So in her world, the idea that she could be wrong just was not an option for her. Like, that was not ever going to be an option for her. But even that was generational, because my grandfather had the same attitude. So this is what I mean by it's in your DNA, and the dysfunction gets handed down from one generation to the next. And so here we are in this very intense, heated exchange. And finally, I say the things that I need to say to her.
Yep.
And I'm letting her know, I said, Mom, you think that I don't care about you. You think that I don't love you. And that's not true. I love you so, 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 so very much. You have no idea how much I love you. And if I didn't love you, I wouldn't be on the phone with you now. And this is after years of us having non-communicado. Like it was ugly. It got
Yeah.
ugly in my
Yeah.
adulthood because I was trying to reconcile the experience with the
Mhm.
disappointment, with the
Mhm.
honor, and with the reality. Listen,
I
come
mean,
on, somebody on today. Like we got to start talking about the truth of these. The experience. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say right there, those two
Yeah.
words, you're trying to reconcile the experience with the disappointment.
Yes. While still giving honor. Do you know how incredibly hard that is?
How
Do
do
you
you,
understand the mental,
that's,
emotional, spiritual? Like that is painful. It's making me emotional because all I wanted to do was to give love and to receive love. That's it. That was my end goal. But when you're trying to reconcile those three things, and the
mm,
disappointment was thick. The disappointment was very thick. It was very heavy. It felt unfair. It left
mm,
me questioning God. Why did you put me in this family? Why did you give me this mom? Why did you give me this dad? Because everywhere I turn, there's disappointment. And I'm not talking about, oh, I didn't get the dolly that I wanted for Christmas. I'm talking about abuse, abandonment, and a
mm,
whole bunch of other things swirled in there where a parent is supposed to love and protect you. I didn't feel that.
yeah,
I felt attacked. I
yeah,
felt abandoned. But God says I still have to give honor. So how do I reconcile? How, God?
yeah.
How do you honor a parent that in your experience has dishonored you?
Ooh, can I take a stab at that?
Yes, go right ahead.
Because you, how do you say it? You really have to just follow and do what the Lord tells you to do at that point. So those who aren't believers, right? I'm gonna use
Yeah.
the Olivia Pope from Scandal. I
Yes.
feel it in my gut. If your gut tells you to do it, then you should really go with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, what does that mean? Sometimes it is to call them. Sometimes it's not to call them. Sometimes it's to remove yourself from their presence to
Right.
save yourself, because love and protection looks different to both the loved and the protected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to protect myself and my kids and remove them from the presence of some people on a regular
Same. Yes.
until I felt that those relationships were no longer toxic, right?
Right.
And so, or maybe those relationships were just toxic to me. So I pulled up my whole gang and we left.
Yes.
And then, as a way to show love, I didn't tell my kids all the dirty little secrets that these people had done to me.
Mm-hmm.
We allowed
Mm-hmm.
them to still think of, those folks that we booked up from
Right.
as whatever they thought they were, and let them
Mm-hmm.
continue to build and nurture their own relationships on their terms, as
Mm-hmm.
I still watch from the background to make sure that they didn't pull that same junk with me on them.
Right. Right.
That's still love, and that's
Mm-hmm.
still protection.
Yeah.
But to the other people who I booked up from, they're going to swear that I didn't love them. They're going to swear that I didn't protect their feelings in our relationship because I
Yeah.
left them. And
Yes.
I said things to them directly that were very, or in a more recent term, I didn't say anything to them when we
Mm.
occupied the same space.
Okay. Mm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
still, though it may not feel like it,
Right.
I showed them all of the love I had for them at the time, because
Yes.
if I had showed them the disrespect and the anger that I wanted to show them, it wouldn't have been a loving experience. So I actually protected them
Right.
from my feelings, and I
Yes.
showed whatever love I had for them, which is still great. in my silence and my avoidance. So sometimes
Right.
it I'm not justifying what your mom did at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for me, what it looks like sometimes isn't gonna look and feel like love.
No,
Should
it's
I
not.
share a short story with you too?
Sure.
Jackson and I, my youngest, had a very heated exchange probably about 2 weeks ago now. And he and I weren't as close as the other boys. And he and I'd been meaning to work more on it, which means I hadn't been working on it as fast and as diligently as I wanted. Of all of my sons, when I would leave a room, they would cry or they would follow me. In the case for him, I could have left the planet. That kid wouldn't have cared as a kid. So when
Mm.
his mom passed when he was 4, his person was gone.
Yeah.
And he was basically left with that dude,
Right.
me.
Yeah.
And I've been that dude this whole time
Mm.
until when he gets hurt or the times when I'm able to give him the love he's looking for in the way he's looking for love and needing
Hmm.
it, then he knows that I'm dad.
Right.
And I promise you, I was kind of taken aback. But what happened, I was getting after him about getting a job to pay for the car insurance because that's the agreement to drive my cars.
Hmm.
And I was coming at him yet again, and he blew up at me.
Mm.
I want a relationship with you. You only talk to me when I'm about getting a job. And he storms off in tears,
Mm.
yelling at me.
Oh my.
And I had already had a day, and he
Yeah.
already done something in not listening to me that damaged something in the place where we live that I now have to pay for on our way out.
Right.
And so I followed him down the hall. I
Mm.
put my hands on him, both shoulders, and looked at
Hmm.
him dead in his eyeballs to remind him that my version of love for you
Hmm.
may not be the version of love that you need or that you're looking
Mm.
for.
Hmm.
But I don't care about that right now.
Hmm.
What I do care about is you need to understand what my love for you looks like to me.
Right.
And my version of what love looks like to me for you is me
Hmm.
continuing to stay near the house, available to you and your
Right.
brothers. Me taking
Right.
jobs that are lesser than I could do, lesser paying, lesser providing, and we run our lives on a razor thin, well, any razor thin, a non-existent budget
Yeah.
that I manifest. He sends the money to us. Talk about God being our provider. He is that
Yeah.
because, to use DJ Quick's lyrics, these dollars don't make sense.
Right.
And I said, but yet,
Yeah.
and I can't provide for you at this season of my life like I've been able to in the past. I
Hmm.
said, but the choice was made for me to stay at home so you
Yeah.
guys can have stability. So that
Right.
if you want to have all these fancy stuff like a lot of your friends that live in this Carlsbadian streets, then
Hmm.
yeah, I'll go into LA or I'll go deep into San Diego and go get a job and I'll miss every one of your sporting events because I'm driving home or
Right.
I'm tired. Or
That's
I'll take 2 or 3 jobs in Carlsbad and here so you can have all this lavish life and you're living at home by yourself like the rest of your
right.
friends whose parents don't know where they are half the time, but yet they got stuff.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? He was
Right.
like, no. I said, then if you want this situation to remain the way it is, then you're gonna have to shake up and listen. If you want to spend
Yeah.
more time with me, yeah. And it wasn't like it wasn't like I didn't tell you the same thing that we need to work on this thing better because 2 of
Hmm.
your brothers are leaving. It's about to just be 3 of us in the house for the first time ever.
Right.
And we know I ain't having nobody roam around the house that I'm paying for not speaking to me. I
Hmm.
said, did I not just tell that? He was like, yeah. I said, okay, so I'm not owning all of the damage control and the rebuild.
Hmm.
I'm not
Hmm.
going to take the FEMA role with us.
Right.
You're going to have to own part 2.
Right.
Can we
Yes.
just, are you willing to do that?
Hmm.
He's like, yeah. That's okay, fine. Then let's get to work. I
Yeah.
gave him a big hug and we sat together for a minute. And then I went back to work and said, are you good if I go back to work? Because I've got work to do. He said,
Hmm.
yeah. I went back to work.
Right. And I love that. And I'll tell you why I love that. Because again, intense moment.
Yeah.
Intense moment of him having a need and him expressing to you, I have a need that you're not meeting.
Yeah.
And then you countering back with, I know you have that need, but I can't give it to you the way that you want it.
Right.
But this is how I'm showing up and this is how I'm giving it to you because, and helping him understand, while I may not be giving it to you the way that you want it, please understand, son, it's not devoid of love, because this is actually the love. It's just not coming in the gift wrapping that you expected it to come in. And so to answer the question of how do you find the honor, I love this. How do you find the honor? Here's what Tamara had to do. Tamara had to literally shred the fantasy wrapping paper, like just throw it away. It does not exist. You're holding your parent to a standard that they will never be able to meet, because guess what? They don't know that you have that standard. This is all about you and what you feel like you are owed, right? So there if you're listening and you're in this moment and you have the gift of communication with your parent right now, because let me tell you something right now, you do not want to be fleshing this out post loss.
Nope.
That in and of itself you will require a therapist. I'm just going to say it.
It ends in
You're going to
regret.
need a therapist for that.
And
You
regret
probably
is a
need a
killer.
therapist right now, but having to unpack that post loss, and not having the ability to be blessed to have that conversation right now is a whole other thing. And I understand that some parents will not even be willing to sit down to have that conversation. So once again, you need to go to therapy for that, so that you can still have that conversation. Even if your parent is unwilling to hear you, you can still have that conversation under the safety of a therapist or a church counselor or somebody that you can trust with those emotions, because it's not necessarily about giving them the business and telling them or whatever. You have to unearth. You have to let go of the expectation. You have to let go of the disappointment, and you have to find the honor. Okay? Yes, your experiences, it was what it was. It was what it was. Nobody can take that away from you, just like no one can take that away from me. That was my experience. However, and the disappointment is real, but there's still some honor in there. And I'm going to tell you how you find the honor. You find the honor in understanding your parents can only give you what they have. They can only give you what they have. What did that look like for me? My mother, I wanted Caroline Ingalls. I wanted to be nurtured. I wanted to be coddled. I wanted to be held. I wanted her to stroke my hair and kiss me and tell me everything is going to be okay. I wanted to lay my head in her lap and just bawl as long as I needed to. What was my mother's reality? I'm a single mother of 2 children. I am by myself trying to raise these kids. That means I have to work overtime. If I want to get them the Cabbage Patch Kids that they ask for, then guess who has to work overtime for 9 months out of the year? Plus, just so that I can put the daggone Cabbage Patch under the Christmas tree. Because I asked for it. That's love.
Yeah, but we don't often think of it that way.
No,
because having a roof over your head, the lights that are on, and food, though it may not be the food you want to eat in the cabinet in the fridge,
but you're not hungry though.
But you're not hungry. You know what I'm saying? And we're blessed in this home that you've taught my kids, how to bake, and Caden has really, taken up that charge of baking, and he'll bake for us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or here, and now
Yes.
he's at this point when he comes home from work, he always brings, not always, but he most frequently will bring some form of pastry from work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so we don't want for sweets in the house. Let me tell you, 'cause we got
Right.
carrot cake right
Right.
now with frosting he made, and all we had to do is, and I'm spoiled. I'm like, can you put that frosting on that other cake yet? No, Dad. If he's tired and he comes home, he's got a round cake.
Yeah.
That's carrot cake is wonderful. It's just he didn't put the
Yeah.
frosting. And I'm
Yes.
like,
It's
oh,
even better with frosting.
right. I'm like, oh, so but the frosting is made is in the fridge. He says all you need to
Yes.
do is put it in a little container, warm it for like 15 seconds or more, and then spread it on. So I was like, and he told me that, I was like, you mean I gotta do it myself?
Right.
Oh, so, but I'm spoiled. So, but I'll go do it now though, because I pivoted.
Yes.
But I'll spread it on
The
cold
pivot. Yes.
and I'll put it in the microwave so that bad boy melts. And it's usually too much, more than he puts
Of
on anyway.
course.
So I put that
Of
on
course.
top and it's all melted. Oh, and a warm cake.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Listen to me. Good food is like a good hug. I don't care. Fight me if you want to.
No.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good food is good love. If and you've tasted my food, you've tasted my baking, and you've tasted my cooking. I don't do nothing in the kitchen and don't put the love in it. Like it needs the love in it. But
Yeah.
even that came out of the disappointment. My mom didn't have time to be baking nobody no cookies. She didn't have time to, and also she didn't grow up in an environment where she was nurtured in that way. Was she
Right.
taken care of? Absolutely. But my grandparents were not the most soft and gentle. Like she didn't get a soft, gentle version of them. By the time I got any of that, she had already experienced their harshness.
Yeah.
So growing up, my grandparents weren't really, I witnessed the harshness secondhand. So I would see how they would talk and treat her, and they did to a certain extent, but not to the extent that my mom got. So what I'm trying to say is your parents are often a product of their environment. So whatever they got growing up, that is what they know, that is what they believe, and that is what they do. Okay?
Right.
So when now it's your turn to be the parent and you have grievances with your parents of he didn't give me this, he didn't give me that, blah, 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 blah. Now you have information.
Yeah.
Don't sit up there complaining about what you did not get. Do something about it. Maybe your parent couldn't be that for you, but now that you have the opportunity to break the cycle. So be what you didn't get for your children, not to the point of spoiling them, not to their detriment, not to don't go all the way left, but be what you didn't get. And that's kind of what you and I have done with our children is that we're trying to fill the gaps that we didn't receive and give it to our children and teach them, hey, sons, hey, daughters, there's a different way. There's a better way that we can go about doing this. But it also has to be balanced with the reality that we are still products of our parents. So some of their dysfunction is still going to bleed through, but we have the awareness. So as long as you have the awareness of, hey, this is in my DNA, when it shows up, don't just accept it. Shift, pivot, change it, do something else. You know that it's not going to work for you. This is also find the honor. So basically what I'm saying is take your parents the way that they are. Because now we're on to the reconciling of my parents weren't the greatest, right? So now we're reconciling with they weren't the greatest, but fill in the blank. They did this, and this. My mother was a wonderful provider. Wonderful provider. We did not lack for anything. We might not have had what the rich kids had, but we had way more than sometimes I don't even know how she put all those presents under the tree. And because she was the type of mother that we woke up, like nothing would be under the tree. And then Christmas morning, Where did all of this come from? When did she get these presents wrapped? Where did she buy this? Oh my gosh, she did get the Cabbage. And not only did she get us the Cabbage Patch Kids, she got us the Cabbage Patch Twins. So if you know anything about Cabbage Patch dolls, you got to understand how expensive they were in the 80s. People would line up around the building to get one Cabbage Patch doll. And we had been asking for a couple of years for these Cabbage Patch dolls. My mom didn't just get us one. She got us two for the price of one. That's 4 Cabbage Patch dolls.
Yeah. So you both got the twins?
We both got twins.
So I thought in my mind, without asking, I just assumed, oh, she just bought them twins, and you got one, and you got one of the twins, and you got one of the twins.
We both got boy-girl twins. We had 4 baby dolls in the house. And this, when on my worst day, when I feel like, man, my mom wasn't it's those moments that I go back to. That's where I find the honor. I find the honor in my mom was a very giving person. And what I mean by that is if you came over to our house, you're going to get something to eat. You're going to get something to drink, whether you wanted it or not.
Yeah.
If she's eating, she's going to offer you some. She loved to laugh. And I know my story is a very heavy story. And for me, where I'm finding the honor now, even after she's passed away, when I share my story, a lot of my story surrounds some very bad things that happened to me, and some of it at my mother's hands. So you would hear my story and think, oh, she must hate her mom. She had the worst mom ever. No, I wouldn't categorize it as that, okay? My mom was my mom, and she was flawed, and she left some dents, okay? She left some dents. However, let me tell you some great things about my mom. Because at the end of the day, regardless of the things, how I experienced her, that is the mother that God chose to bring me into this world. So for me to not honor her is a slap in the face to my creator, my God.
Yeah.
Who numbered every hair on my head, who knit me in my mother's womb in secret, who used her to bring me into this world for a purpose, for such a time as this. For me to not give her that honor, at the very least, if that was the only thing, I'm giving her the honor.
Yeah.
I'm giving it to her. Father too. Because she couldn't have me without him. And so the reconciliation is, if you didn't get what you wanted, grieve it, mourn it, whatever you have to do, make peace with that.
That part.
Make peace with it and understand that your parents can't give you what they don't possess.
Right.
I don't have $1 million to give each of my children. I don't.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I have a home that has a roof. I have AC. I have food in the fridge.
Sure. Clothes
on your back. All of my children are still at home. I have 3 in college and a toddler. They want for nothing.
Yeah.
I have a 25-year-old. I could have said to her, listen, you grown, you got to go. But I understand that she has dreams that she's trying to accomplish. So my thing to her is, no, stay as long as you need to and get yourself right. Then go. Because my goal is, once you leave, if you leave correctly, you won't have to come back.
Right. That's what I did.
Yes. I'm your launch pad. And I don't have a problem with that. And I've met so many people. I come across so many people. Oh my gosh, your kids are still home? Oh my goodness. And then you can't keep them home forever. I'm not keeping them home. But the way that the world and the economy is running right now, these babies don't have a leg to stand on. They still need our help. Yeah. They cannot survive out there by themselves.
No, because we can't survive out there by ourselves.
We barely make it in ourselves. So why would I force, especially if they're respectful and abiding by the rules of my home, stay as long as you need to. And then my prayer is, Lord Jesus, because I've been spoiled now, because they've been home for so long, Lord, help my heart. When they come to me, I'm going to have to shift again when they say I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
experiencing that now because you have one that's leaving, two that's leaving,
Yep. The same days apart. So
days apart.
while we're recording this particular week, 3 days from today, one of them will leave, and then the day after, so 4 days from now, the second one will leave. And
Oh my,
I I gotta say that honestly, I knew these days would come, but I didn't know they were gonna come. If
yeah.
that makes any sense, because
Yeah, that
we've
makes
been
total sense.
we've been a single. Well, I can't say single anymore because by the law of the land, if you once you're married or yeah, once you're married and you get divorced or your spouse dies, you're never single again. Your
Right.
singularity has been now replaced with a new adjective.
Got it.
And you're either a widower in my case or you're divorced. And I believe
Yeah.
that's unfair because you
It
are
is.
single, because you're by yourself and you're alone in a lot of
In
cases.
every
So
sense of the word, you're doing it
every
by
sense.
yourself.
But if you ever signed a document and didn't give one of those proper pronouns,
Wow.
you would be held, you'd be liable for fraud, basically. You know.
Wow.
And I got that rude awakening when I was signing up for their Social Security when their mom first died. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
so I've been on that odd path of self-discovery and these
Yeah.
finding out who we are now
You
after this.
unfolded.
And
Yeah.
it's likely these are relationships that have gone wrong or
Yeah.
de-romanticized. As you brought it to us in the strategy. We have to
Hmm.
really know what our relationships look like and who we are without these people. Who are we are
Yes.
in absence of these people. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of time to rewrite who we are. There's studies out there that says we used to believe that it took 21 days to make a habit. But there's so many new studies out from several years ago even that it takes 66 days to truly make a habit.
Yeah.
And we're really on these paths to becoming honestly really brand new.
Yeah. That's awesome. So in closing, let's get you give the people, what is your reconciliation in your journey with making peace with your parents? How did
Ooh,
you?
how did I reconcile?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I got being sick and tired of their disappointment. And then I just finally had to just say, look, I have to let them go. And
Yeah.
they're going to be who they are. And like you said, they loved us the way that they could. And
Hmm.
I, in my case, there are still some folks out there that are alive that I haven't reconciled with that have hurt in these same, not even just parental, just, I mean, they're friendships, they're family members. It just depends on who you are. It has the same feeling as your body doesn't know the
Yes.
difference. But I have
Exactly.
finally just reconciled the fact that I'll never get back from them what I really wanted. Even if I planned it all and had a premeditated get back on them, it'll never
Right.
be right.
Yeah.
So I had to just let all of that as best I can. I'm in the process of letting so much of it just go
Right.
and just say, look, I'm just going to be me and only control the part of that situation that I can, which is me. And I can barely control me. And I'm going to fix the parts of me. And
Yes.
I had to make sure that I knew that I didn't own all of the blame for the loss of those damaged or broken relationships.
Right.
And I'm not going to be the one that was flawless in all of that. So I had
Right.
to own all of my good and bad. And so often we never want to own our good.
So
Like we
true.
would have at the top of the show, you asked me to tell what I do. And I've struggled in the telling of that
Mm.
because to me it's following the Lord to do what I'm supposed to do, not
Hmm.
this, oh, Tamara, I've had this legacy. I've always wanted to be. No, I don't have that.
Right.
I have a life that looks back and go, well, I felt like I was supposed to have done the following. So in the reconcile, I just share with anyone, The get back that you can have is get back to who you really wanted to be.
Mm, mm,
And when you can at least get on the path to taking stock and notice, well, what about me that I don't like?
yes.
Not what caused a person to do me wrong, no. But
Right.
what about me do I not like? And then
Mm,
what about me do I like? And
mm-hmm.
let's go find the parts that I don't like. Let's go find some solutions to
Yes.
work on those so they can
Yeah.
also become things about me, us,
Right.
that we like. And then it's get on that path. And it's a slow path, unfortunately. And you started the show with talking about riding the ship or turning the ship around. If
Mm-hmm.
we really begin to use that analogy for what it really is, if you were to turn a tanker ship around, one of these big supersized tankers that we've seen, or aircraft carriers we may have seen in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes 3 to 4 miles to
Mm,
turn those kind of ships around, cruise ships and those large vessels around. We're
right.
not, our lives are not little yachts that we can, or jet skis that we can turn on a dime and life is fixed.
Right.
Yay, we're heading in a new
Yes.
direction.
Yeah.
But it's purposeful and it takes fuel and energy. Sometimes we're going against the tide and against the grain, against our momentum of where we were going to
Mm-hmm.
turn this thing around. But
Yes.
one thing I imagine we'll talk about in later times is that we've got to stay the course. We've got to stay
Yeah.
true to the turning and not lose sight of where we're going. Because sometimes we could keep turning
Right.
and wind up in a circle
Oh
and not,
gosh.
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And
And
get
then
back
that's
and
where
get back
you
to
go.
whole, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're back to where you started and you're stuck in the area. But you have to
Yes.
keep your eye on where do I want to be, and as long as I can turn it into that, and when I get there, I'm like, yep, and I'm gonna stop turning.
Right.
You know, and then going
Right.
straight. So sometimes getting out of a turn sometimes takes as much
Right.
energy as it took for
Yes.
you to get into it.
And obedience, because
Oh,
you can't turn the ship without God. Let me just say that. You need
nope.
God as he is. Listen, he is the pilot
Yeah,
and you're the co-pilot.
yeah.
And he has the navigation course. He has the blueprints, the plot, the everything. He knows
Yeah.
where everything is. So please don't think that we're saying do this all by yourself. We're not
Mhm.
saying that. We're saying do this and do it with God. And if God ain't in it, then I question, do you need to be doing it? Because that's the only way.
Yeah.
In our experience, that is the onlyest way that you can turn a ship called life
Yeah.
like that. The only reason why we have healthy relationships, albeit flawed, but healthy, because you can be both, with
Mhm.
our children is because we have invited God into the journey. We are seeking him daily.
Yeah.
Lord, what do I do with this child that you gave me? And understanding that with each child comes a different set of navigation blueprints and everything, because it's not, you're not parenting the same child. They're related, yes. They may have similarities, maybe. um Totally different child, completely different. So you need God, people. You need God in everything that you do. I'm never gonna not preach that. You need Jesus, and I do too. That's the only way that we break cycles. That's the only way that we turn the ship around. That's the only way we shift and we pivot with our children. Craig, thank you so much for coming on my show and having this conversation that needs to be had, that needs to be spoken, because I know that there are many of you, whether you wanted to admit it out loud or not. And if you don't want to admit it out loud, that's okay. But I know that we struggle in these areas. I know that there's some of you that are lost and hurting, and you need answers to big, big questions like, how do I make peace with the parents that I have when everything was not perfect? And I have some deficiencies and I have some boo-boos that I'm trying to work through. And I am blessed and honored to be able to get in that conversation and be a part of that conversation, and hopefully offer you some useful, practical tools of how to overcome life in those areas. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Craig, you hipped me to something that I did not know about. So we can no longer tell people to smash things or hit things or anything like that. So what is the correct thing to say when we want them to remain a part of the community conversation?
Ask them to tap in, ask them to take a listen.
Yes.
Even join the discussion.
And take a listen and, pass it along. And y'all know what that means. Pass it along, pay it forward. Okay. Thank you so much, Craig, for joining me today. And do you have anything that you want to say? Oh,
no.
Tell the people where we can find you. Where can we find you? Where can we get a t-shirt? Where can we go for that?
You can always find me on social media, on Instagram, on Carlisle Family Prints. That's PRINTS on Instagram, and on Facebook. You can always even find our other stuff at RZNGMen, RZNGMen. And if you're looking for a shirt, that would be Carlisle Prints with a Z on the end, PRNTZ.com. Awesome. And our stores are online. In fact, you even have some in with Mom.
Yes, and I'll put all of that information in the place where you look for information and you can tap things.
That's it.
All right, we're out. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.